Wow, Catherine, 2 videos in 2 days? What's going on? Well, I basically have zero impulse control, so when I get the idea for something, I've got to do it immediately. And I thought, it's a nice Saturday morning, what's a girl to do but rant about mythological figures? Now, before I start, I want to make one thing clear. I know I've used a bit of a clickbaity title, but I don't actually hate the stories of King Arthur or Robin Hood. Quite the contrary, they were a huge part of my childhood growing up. I loved King Arthur and Robin Hood. Here's a picture of me dressed up as Robin Hood in a costume my mum made. I loved it. I loved playing with little knights and castles. I was basically obsessed with Robin Hood and King Arthur when I was growing up, okay? I loved it. But what I do hate are attempts to find the real King Arthur or the real Robin Hood, for reasons I'll explain shortly. But first, what triggered this rant? Well, it's an opinion I've had for a long time, but I've never really been able to properly articulate it. And regularly in my research, I'll come across people who've suddenly discovered a new Arthurian site in Yorkshire. And you know, it really is amazing because there's about 25 potential candidates for locations of the Round Table in Britain. And each year they discover a new one, whether it be the burial place of Arthur or the location of Excalibur or the battle of this, that and the other. It's a bit like the people who each year write a book saying they've found Jack the Ripper, and each time it's someone completely different. But anyway, I know I've already made a video on Robin Hood in Yorkshire, but frankly it's just so old and badly made that it's embarrassing for me to watch now, just because I've improved so much as a video maker. But I digress. You see, King Arthur is this wonderful amalgamation of so many different influences and sources. You've got early medieval Welsh poetry, Geoffrey of Monmouth's fantastical stories, French romantic literature, Victorian pre-Raphaelite paintings, and Monty Python. It's this wonderful mix which have all contributed to the creation and evolution of this character. Now, I don't have an issue with trying to find the origins of these stories. It's fascinating. But the problem arises when we forget that King Arthur and Robin Hood are constructed, mythologised figures, and instead try to pin them onto people and claiming that they're the real King Arthur or the real Robin Hood. For example, a lot of people have argued that King Arthur was actually a Romano-British general. And the crux of my argument is that the King Arthur that we know and love is so vastly different from whoever he might have been based on that it's pointless to try and connect the two. To put it another way, when we think of King Arthur, we think of Merlin, Excalibur, Camelot, Avalon, the Round Table. But if you were to find that real person, let's say that Romano-British general, would they have any of those elements? I highly doubt it. They'd be practically unrecognisable to the Arthur that we know today. Now, with Robin Hood, there's arguably more of a connection to history. Part of this is due to the fact that Robin Hood was written a lot later and was very popular as medieval poetry. But even then, when we think of Robin Hood, we think of merry men in tights, jolly Friar Tuck, Maid Marian. If we were to find that the person that Robin Hood was supposedly based on, would they have any of those elements? Again, I highly doubt it. So just to reiterate, I don't have an issue with trying to find the origins of these stories, but we must remember that these are constructed, mythologised figures who have evolved over time. And I'm not trying to deny that they might have been based on real people. They very well could have been. But to try and make a great quest out of discovering who they might have been based on, I think it's utterly pointless, because whoever it was would be so utterly unrecognisable from the figure that we know to this day that we wouldn't know them to be King Arthur or Robin Hood, if that makes sense. Just to finish, as I said, I used to love King Arthur and Robin Hood as a kid, and I remember I used to watch a load of these History Channel-esque documentaries about finding the real King Arthur, and I remember coming away from them quite disappointed, because the figure that they'd argued was King Arthur was just so different to the King Arthur that I knew and loved. And that's the point I'm trying to make. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk.